I'm joined now by the founder, chairman and CEO of Blackstone, Steve Schwarzman, who, as you said, has been appointed as chairman of Donald Trump's Strategic Policy Forum today. Steve, congratulations. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you. Glad you're here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and particularly so soon after this announcement was made, first on CNBC. When did you speak with the president-elect, and tell us about that conversation?
Well, I speak with him with some frequency, and about a week and a half ago, he broached a variety of different alternatives of things I might be able to do, and that was in the context of having substantive discussions on alternatives of what to do with the economy and other things. And he asked if there would be any chance that we could meet on a regular basis to provide advice in areas where he wasn't as familiar, and ideally, if possible, he asked me if I would form a group of terrific people who were experienced and wise and, sort of experts in their field to join for meetings where he would be able to learn from them with meetings on a regular basis. And I should pick the people, and he'd review them, and he loved them all. And there was no, issues of partisanship. He said, "I don't care about that. I don't care about anything but talent and wisdom and judgment."
And so you picked all of these, and if we look at the breakdown of the types of sectors that these people come from, it's a big tilt towards the financial industry. It's well covered, whether it's Wall Street, it's asset managers, it's banks itself. Some people have noted there's no Silicon Valley, there's no Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft. That was a choice you made, not him.
Well, no, not really. It was sort of interesting. I mean, I just got an email from Bill Gates who said, I can't do this on a regular basis, but if you need me, just let me know. And there are many people, sort of who run those types of companies who are like flat out, and all have said, two cases, I can't do this right now, but can you give me a little bit of time? And, I'm really interested in this.
Steve, you mentioned at the top there was lots of conversations between you and the president-elect about how you could help. Did initially he offer you more? Did he offer you a cabinet position?
That's not a relevant discussion. So this is something that worked for me because I can't do something full-time, given all the different things I'm doing now, both not-for-profit and for-profit.
Okay, and yesterday, if we can focus on one story that's got a lot of attention in the business world, the President-elect Donald Trump went down to Ohio and announced this deal with Carrier, that 1,000 jobs would be staying. In his speech after that, he said there would be clear consequences for companies that tried to do the same thing. Is that not dangerous in this world? Is it some kind of corporate shakedown? Are you a supporter of that type of rhetoric from a politician?
Well, this was the first time for me. I heard it when you heard it. And the issue is how do you build the United States? How do you create jobs or in this case, keep jobs? And that's, an election promise of sort of Donald Trump. And it's an important thing to develop and create jobs here in the United States. So I anticipate that there'll be a variety of things that come up that nobody really thought would come up, and they'll either be developed or they'll go away. But the basic instinct, not to punish people particularly, but to find a mechanism to create a vibrant economy is something that is a good objective.
But the flip side is they're now not going to be open season from other corporates to be able to come to the government and say, hey, look, I'm considering moving people abroad as well. You've got to give me the same kind of tax breaks or else we're going to go. It creates a precedent that's going to be followed, does it not?
Well, I think part of what this administration's going to do, and I don't know on this one particular issue. I know on other things, because this one just sort of dropped in, that there are going to be new things tried. It's the nature of change, and some of them will work, some of them won't. But there's nobody who's not going to get this one, that it's a symbol in a way of the seriousness of his commitment to deliver to the middle class and lower income people in the country.
As you say, that was a big commitment on his campaign, Make America Great Again, and particularly towards the working class. Yet some of the appointments that have been made to the cabinet and some of the rhetoric towards deregulation of certain sectors, and in fact the way the stock market has performed in a sector sense, banks have really soared. I've seen some people now coin the phrase that in fact it's not Make America Great Again but Make Wall Street Great Again. I mean, what's your view towards that and the Goldman Sachs alumni that are being appointed?
Well, I don't see that as a overwhelming, compelling narrative. What he has been doing is picking people he's comfortable with. Some of the people in finance touch enormous parts of the economy. A company like ourselves, for example, has 300,000 employees with our portfolio companies in America. So you know an enormous amount of stuff as compared to just one company. And so I think Donald comes from the financial services world. I think he tends to pick people who he's comfortable with and who are competent. And so I think that's where that comes from, rather than any desire to reward any sector.
You said earlier that you have a full-time job here, and others indeed as well, too busy and perhaps conflicted to take a full Treasury, a full cabinet position. What's your view on the conflicts of interest between the President-elect's political role and his business role?
I think that's a tough one because he's so intertwined. And his life has been basically his company and playing golf. Those are the two principal things that he does. And so he's not one with a lot of hobbies. He's got enormous focus, and so disconnecting from that is an unnatural act for him. And I realize that the president technically is not sort of subject to the same exact criteria as cabinet people, and I think it'll take a while to work this out. I think he's sensitive to the issue.
What about yourself now? And clearly you're on an advisory board. You're not taking a cabinet position. However, you are going to have a better influence and a better knowledge of upcoming policy than your rivals at Apollo and Carlyle Group, to name just but a few. Is that not a conflict of interests?
Geez, I look at things and say we're going through a period of enormous change in the United States. This will not be a regular way. And if I can help make the country better, make it safer, make policy lower risk, if we can help bring the country together, that's sort of an important thing, and it's an obligation. I mean, particularly as you get older in life, you want to do good things, and so I don't know what treasured secrets I'm going to learn. That's not the object of the exercise.
In the press release today, Steve, that Donald Trump released with the announcement of this board, this forum, it said this: CEOs and business leaders who know what it means to create jobs and growth are being appointed to this team. He's made that point a lot, both about the people he's appointing and about himself, that he brings this private sector business acumen to the job that perhaps politicians don't know, haven't experienced by creating jobs before. On the flip side of that, is there a risk that he lacks some of the political skills that are needed, most notably with dealing with Congress and actually getting some of these ideas that you no doubt will help generate actually made into law?
Well, I guess he's not a particularly ineffective political person, since he somehow got elected to be president. So if you start from that as a baseline, and the fact that a number of the people he's involved as cabinet people and people at the new White House are quite knowledgeable, quite sophisticated, and remember, there is a Congress there, and they're the same people who have been there. They're accessible. they have a vision of what they want to do, which in many cases has a huge overlap with what the new administration wants to do. And between all of them, I think they're going to find common purpose.
I want to pick up on something you said. It's the same people. It's a Republican Congress, once again, as President Obama has just experienced. In that sense, do you feel a little bit sorry for President Obama? Because there's this upbeat euphoria even in the marketplace, a belief that the fiscal expansion that Donald Trump wants to deliver will improve growth to levels that hasn't been possible in President Obama's term. Yet he had favored fiscal expansion himself at times, but that was blocked by a Republican Congress. Is it a little unfair that it might now be passed by a Republican Congress just because the party has changed at the president?
Well, it's not so easy just to pass things because there's still two parties there. And at the moment, I guess there are 51 senators and a majority of 2. That's not much of a majority. If a lot of laws need to get to 60. The way the current rules of the Senate are. And so there's still going to be a lot of tugging, and pulling to get certain things done. One of the advantages on the short term is that the concept that's called reconciliation, where you can pass tax-oriented things of 50%, puts the Republicans in a unique position to be able to affect tax reform of all types, to bring back monies that are $2 trillion that are outside of the United States that can be brought back. So things of that type are going to require just the 50%, which makes it a lot easier.
It does, so a lot easier in those areas, but certainly still a lot of work and tugging to do, as you said. In that sense, is it possible in the short term the market's got a little bit ahead of itself in terms of what might be delivered?
Markets tend to always overshoot when they get really ebullient, and this has been quite a run. But it also reflects the fact that we've had a lot of drag on the economy through regulation, and in a way the system needs to be debugged. That doesn't mean all regulation is bad, but there's a certain balance. Right now, as a result of the regulation, the U.S. banking system really is terrific. It's the best in the world, and it needs the freedom to start doing some things like making more loans. You can't grow unless your banking system is expanding and you're extending credit. We have been shrinking. So we sort of have, with low interest rates, one foot on the gas, and with regulatory overlay, one foot on the brake. And so what we're going to do is take off the full standing on the brake.
Steve, I wonder how this sort of stacks up in terms of moments of your life, all the achievements, the non-for-profit work we were discussing just off camera before, and the scholarships around the world, particularly in China. Being appointed to this role, as you say, to give something back, as it were, and make a difference, does it make you very proud? Are you excited about it?
Yeah, actually, when I went to college, these were sort of values that were taught. And I got to meet a lot of, famous people. I was just like a middle-class American, and there was a certain obligation, and I had that with my grandfather in the charitable area, that it's your responsibility to do that if you can. I'm fortunate that I can, but if I can use my background for a productive thing for other people to keep the country on a good course, to help out, to tell people what you know if it's useful, then I'm very happy to do that. And not to make this about me, the people that were recruited for the forum, both Republicans and Democrats, all their motives are all the same.
The same as Donald Trump's motives?
No, the same as the motives
of you, I know.
Of myself.
Yourself. And
to help get the country through this period of change, where there's going to be a tremendous number of good things, and some other things just by the sheer volume of it and the newness of the group that might look a little odd. They might be right, they may be wrong, but it's worthy talking about them.
Absolutely, Steve, and I have no doubt that you and that group will have hugely significant ideas to share with the President. I'm very grateful for your time this afternoon, and congratulations on the appointment.
Well, thanks a lot.
Steve Schwarzman here from Blackstone headquarters.